Hello everyone, Jai Hind and welcome to Gyanonymous School. In this series is going to be criminology, actually UGC NET Criminology live lecture series. This will be for University Grant Commission's National Eligibility Test for the particular subject of criminology. I will be discussing the whole syllabus of UGC NET Criminology. So this is particularly for UGC NET Criminology aspirants, whoever preparing for UGC NET Criminology JRF or just NET or maybe for PhD. So this series is going to be for them. So in general criminology lectures live, I have covered almost all criminological theories and all domains of criminology from 1 to 10 criminology live lectures. You can go and please watch. There are 17 or 18 parts there in total, so 10 lectures all. I have covered almost all the theories of criminology, including victimology and penology in that set of criminology live lectures. You can go and please watch that on 1.5x for your better experience. So this is particularly going to be criminology live lectures from the point of view or for UGC NET criminology aspirants. So I am very delighted to welcome you all to this comprehensive criminology lecture series. Whether you are preparing for UGC NET or maybe studying criminology, law, sociology, or maybe police administration, or just simply curious about crime and or justice, this series is designed to help you understand criminology from ground up. So today's lecture is our first and perhaps the most important lecture, because we will study about criminals, about policing, about punishment, cybercrime, terrorism, even about victimology, and we will look into the syllabus of criminology. Before looking into the syllabus of criminology, let me check again whether I am actually live or not. क्या डिमांड है गवर्नमेंट से? Oh, let me check if I am live or not. Yes, I think I am live in a good way. Let me check if I am live or not. Yes, I think I am live in a good way. Okay. That's it. So thank you. So in unit 1 of UGC NET Criminology syllabus, there is like crime as a legal, social and psychological construct. There is difference and definitions of deviance and crime. What is deviance and what is crime? There are various crimes like traditional crimes or crime against property or crime against person, also crime against like children, against women, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or simply LGBTQ plus communities, or also crime against marginalized communities, also crime against men also. There are various crimes like victimless crimes also. We will look into such crimes like alcoholism or drug addiction, beggary or commercial sex, maybe suicide. These are all victimless crimes. There are family-centered crimes like dowry, domestic violence, child abuse, or community problem. This is all in the unit 1 of UGC NET Criminology syllabus. But this unit 1 is so vast that I will not be able to cover it in a single lecture. It will be very long. So I am trying to cover it in 2 or 3 parts. So whatever I have gone through the syllabus, whatever I said about the syllabus, I will be covering these topics today. So before going into that, first we have to answer one question. Before going to understand all crimes and all, we have to understand what is crime. We have to answer the simple question of what is crime. It's a basic question of criminology. If you are going to sit in the UGC NET Criminology, you have to understand the basic question of what is crime. So to answer that question, let's get introduced to criminology again. So criminology is simply a scientific study of crime, about criminals, about victims, about criminal behaviors, and also with the society's reaction to crime. The word criminology comes from two words. One is crimion, which is a Latin word. This word means accusation or crime. Another is logos, which is everywhere in every subject, which is a Greek word to study or to science. So criminology literally means the scientific study of crime. But modern criminology goes actually much beyond simply studying crimes or offenses. Modern criminology actually seeks to answer various questions like why do people commit crimes, who becomes criminals, why do some crimes increase because or maybe other crimes decline, why should society respond to crime, or how should society respond to crime. Can crime ever be completely eliminated, or crime will be an integral part of society? I use the word integral, but I don't know whether it is justified to use. But will it forever be part of this society or any society? So these are questions. Others can be like, can crime ever be completely eliminated? So such questions make criminology a very interdisciplinary science. If we try to answer these questions, we have to answer them not just a particular, we will not be able to answer from a particular point of view. We have to see it legally, we have to see it sociologically, we have to see it psychologically, and even from economics point of view. So criminology is truly an interdisciplinary science. So why crime is very difficult to define? At the first glance, defining crime may be easy. I have just defined crime or defined criminology. But it's not easy. Many people simply say that crime is an act against the law. It can be just a crime can be an act which is against the prevailing law. But really it is actually much more complicated than that. Let's, for example, consuming alcohol is legal in Goa. It's legal in, let's say, West Bengal, or legal in Assam, or legal in Delhi. But it's prohibited in Gujarat. It's prohibited even, I think, in Bihar also. So alcohol consumption is legal in Delhi but illegal in Gujarat. So what would be like that? A person from Gujarat is drinking alcohol in Delhi. So will it be a crime? It's a very difficult questions to answer or to evaluate even. So for another example, marijuana, which is legal in Canada but prohibited in many other countries. Similarly, until 2018, consensual same-sex relationships between adults, it was criminalized under Section 377 of Indian Penal Code. But today, after a Supreme Court landmark judgment, the such relationship or same-sex relationships no longer regarded as crime. So these all tell something important to us. That is, crime is with time, crime is with culture, and crime is very dynamic. It changes with law and jurisdiction. Crime is very relative to jurisdiction. Whatever crime there may be in Delhi, it may not be crime in Northeast. Whatever crime there can be in Canada, it may not be crime in another part of the world, let's say in Australia or maybe in Europe. So therefore, there is no single universal definition of crime that applies equally across all societies and all historical periods. Crime is relative to the geographical domain. So if we go to crime as a legal construct, which is on our first of syllabus, let us first understand crime from a legal perspective. The legal approach is the simplest and most widely accepted definition of crime. According to legal perspective, crime is actually any act or omission which is prohibited by law and punishable by the state. So there are four important components in these definitions. First, there must be a law. To be a crime, there must be a prevailing law. Without law, there is no crime. Secondly, the law must prohibit the conduct. The conduct or what is regarded crime, it must be prohibited by the prevailing law. And thirdly, violation must attract punishment. Whatever the conduct is, whatever the violation is, it must conduct or it must attract some punishment. Fourthly, the punishment is imposed by state through criminal justice system. So to be a crime, there must be a criminal justice system, and state must be the keeper of the criminal justice system, or state must be protector of society and people through a criminal justice system. So this idea whatever we discussed is reflected in a Latin maxim related to criminology or related to crime. I don't know whether I would be able to pronounce it correctly, but it says nullum crimen sine lege. Nullum crimen sine lege. It actually means there is no crime without law. It simply says if there is no law, there is no crime. Similarly, there is another Latin maxim. It says nulla poena sine lege or nulla poena sine lege. I don't know whether it is pronounced as lege or lege, but since I am not since I don't speak Latin, so anyway, it means there is no punishment without law. If there is no law, there will be no punishment. So these two principles protect citizens from arbitrary punishment and ensure that only legally defined offenses are prosecuted. Arbitrary punishment means just punishment without any like law or without any particular moral law which is written. There is no structured way of punishing anyone. There is no code. So that is called what arbitrary punishment is. So these two principles protect citizens from such type of arbitrary punishment and ensures legally defined offense are to be prosecuted. So legal perspective provides certainty and uniformity in punishment. Though with all this, it also having with limitation. Not everything that is harmful is immediately illegal. This is also one limitation. Something that can be harmful but it may not be illegal. For instance, spreading misinformation or even environmental degradation or certain unethical corporate practices. This all may cause immense harm, but laws may not be there, or immediate laws may not be there to regulate them, or laws may not be there enacted to regulate them. Even there can be some laws, but in most of the society they are not so enacted or implemented to regulate them, especially with the spread of misinformation or even environmental degradation. Okay, so therefore law alone cannot fully explain crime. So as we have seen crime from legal perspective, we have defined crime from legal perspective, but we found at last that law alone cannot define crime. So let's look into crime from a social construct or from a social point of view. Moving beyond law, sociologists actually argued that crime is actually a product of society itself. Of course, crime is a product of society, French sociologist Émile Durkheim, he made one of the most revolutionary statement in criminology. He actually argued that crime is very normal. At time this sounds, it may be sound very shocking that crime is normal. How can be crime normal? But Durkheim didn't actually mean that crime is desirable. Okay, he didn't invite crime. He meant that in every society, regardless to its wealth or its level of development, every society experiences crime. No society has ever been completely free of crime. There is no society which is completely free of crime, however developed or however structured that society may be, however moral values in that society may be. So crime exists because societies constantly sense, values evolve, norms evolve, and even laws evolve. Whatever is not crime today, it may be crime tomorrow. So if government brings a law here in any jurisdiction that this is going to be crime, like let's say in West Bengal district of India, let's say drinking alcohol is not crime, but if government brings a law that drinking alcohol is prohibited, so it can be crime from the next day. So it is very relative, and it changes as law changes or as law evolve. So sometimes individuals challenge existing norms, and these challenge eventually reshape society. So history there are many examples historically, like leaders who fought against colonial rules were treated as criminals by colonial governments. Like in India, we had freedom fighters who were named actually terrorists by British government, all the freedom fighters from Bhagat Singh to Chandrasekhar Azad and all, they were once named terrorist by British government. So terrorist is a very heavy word in present Indian context. But can you imagine these people who gave us freedom, they were once called so by the British government. But now we call them freedom fighters, and just for them actually we got freedom. So this is very relative. This actually demonstrates that crime is deeply connected to social values and political power. If there were British, even till now, if we were under British till 2026, probably the people we call them freedom fighter now, they would have been probably still, they would have labeled as something else, that we call them terrorist, or like with such words that British government once termed them. But since we have our own political system, now we have our social values evolves, so we now understand that they are fighting for us, and we term them actually freedom fighters. They have done everything for us, given up their life for us, so we respect them, and for them actually we got our freedom. So this shows crime, or the notion of crime, is relative from a social point of view. Another important sociologist, Robert K. Martin, he who have gone with the strain theory. If you want to know more about strain theory, please go and watch the our strain theory video, the concept video of strain theory, which is on this Gyanonymous YouTube channel. So Robert K. Martin, he explained that crime may arise when people are encouraged to pursue socially approved goals such as wealth, success, but if they lack legitimate opportunity to achieve them. So in fact, Robert Martin has gone with the difference between goal and means. There can be various goals, or individual can have some goal, but the means to attain the goals, how we go through the means, what means we follow. So these means can lead to crime. So this mismatch between goal and opportunities, these all create strain which may push individuals towards criminal behavior. So in later on of this course, we will study more about Martin's strain theory in detail. We have already studied. If you want to go to that video, please go and revisit again. You will be able to understand the very concept of strain theory of Robert Martin and Robert Agnew's general strain theory also. So thus, from a sociological perspective, crime actually reflects social inequality. It reflects cultural norms, economic conditions, and also institutional structures, rather than merely individual choices, or rather than regarding crime as mere individual choices. So this is what crime from sociological perspective. Now let's move to look into crime or criminal behavior from psychological construct or psychological perspective. So psychologists actually focus on individual mind rather than the society. They go with individualistic thinking or individualistic behavior than on going with the society. They ask important questions like, why do two people raised in the same environment behave differently? There may be two twins who raised in the same environment, but one can become simply good and one can go into the deviant way. Why does one become very law-abiding citizen and another become a habitual offender? So famous psychologist Sigmund Freud, he proposed that human behavior is influenced by interaction of three major factors, that is id, ego, and superego. It implies it actually impulses dominate and self-control is actually weak. If the domination and self-control impulse are very weak, antisocial behavior may become more likely to dominate. On the other hand, other psychologists like Hans Eysenck, they emphasize that role of personality traits. They suggested actually that some individuals may be more prone to impulsive behavior or risk-taking behavior than others. Other psychologists like Robert Bandura, he introduced social learning theory. He argued that people learned behavior, including criminal behavior, through observation, imitation, and reinforcement, like other behavior like driving or learning about computers. So a child who is repeatedly exposed to violence at home may come to view that aggression is a very normal part of day-to-day life and very normal way of resolving conflict. So he may regard violence as a normal way of life. So this actually doesn't mean that everyone exposed to violence became criminal. Rather psychological factors interact with family, with peers, with education and social environment. Then we get a detailed understanding of criminal behavior. Modern psychology therefore rejects the simplistic explanation of crime. It says that crime cannot be explained by psychology alone. Psychology itself says that crime cannot be explained by psychology alone. Just it cannot be explained by law, or it cannot be explained by society alone. So let's integrate all the three factors or all the three perspectives, that is legal perspective, sociological perspective, or socio-economic economical perspective, and lastly the psychological perspective. The legal perspective, it tells us what is crime. It defines crimes from the point of view of law. It defines what is crime. The sociological or socioeconomic perspective, it explains why societies define certain acts as crime and how social conditions influence criminal behavior. On the other hand, the psychological perspective, it helps us to understand why particular individual engage in criminal acts while other individuals do not engage in such acts. So together they provide a more complete understanding of crime than they do in individually. So this integrated approach forms the foundation of modern criminology. It guides in research, in policing, or in criminal justice policy, also in rehabilitation and crime prevention. So that's today we have gone through crime. We have looked into crime through legal, social, and psychological perspective. The very first theme of UGC NET Criminology syllabus. So it introduced us to the very fundamental concept of crime, which is shown that it has shown that crime is much more deeper than simply breaking the law. Crime simultaneously can be a legal category, it can be a social phenomenon, and a psychological behavior. So understanding these three dimensions is essential before we move to specifics of crime, before we move to the other details of crime in the syllabus, or before we move to criminal behavior or victimology, policing, or punishment, that is penology. So in our next lecture we will explore other important questions like what is the difference between deviance and crime and other themes in the chapter. So for UGC NET quick revision, you can go with these 5 points that I have shortlisted from the first theme, that is number 1, crime has no universal definition. There is no universal definition of crime. Next, crime is a legal construct because it depends on law. Next, crime is a social construct because it changes with society, it changes with culture and values. Fourthly, crime is a psychological construct because individual cognition, personality, and learning influence behavior. Lastly, we must remember that modern criminology adopts an interdisciplinary approach, integrating these all three perspective, that is legal, sociological, and psychological perspective, along with other perspectives like biological, economic, and political perspective also, to understand crime in a comprehensive way. So the first lecture actually it is about conceptual foundation for the entire unit 1, and then we will go into the lecture 2 beginning with deviance and crime. So that's all for today. If you have any questions, you can please write in the comment box. And thank you for watching. Please do like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And if you have any questions, you can please ask me there. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.